Motherhood, but not quite as we imagine. Thought-provoking, refreshing, straightforward, sometimes taboo, often seemingly ordinary, but always honest. Welcome to School for Mothers, opening conversations we all need to have, exploring ways in which you can be fulfilled as a woman, once a mother. Now here is your host, mother of 10, Danusia Durbin.
Welcome back to another episode of the School for Mothers podcast. I'm your host, Danusia Durbin, and as always, thank you so much for being here. It's episode 16, and I'm joined by Christine Gouchot, entrepreneur, author, speaker, mother of 4, and business owner. In this week's episode, I'm hoping to explore scaling businesses up and down and how to adapt your business to your family's needs. We'll also no doubt be discussing Christine's fabulous book called Business Mum, 3 Steps to Success in Running Your Own Business, as well as being a mum. Actually, I've slightly changed her business title, so maybe I should tell you the real one. It's Business Mum, 3 Steps to Success in Running Your Own Business and Being a Mum. Before we dive in, I want to spotlight one of our listeners. This is a note that I received from Stephanie Modell, who is a maternity nanny and sleep consultant. And I want to give Stephanie a giant shout out. Thank you so much for your kind words. I couldn't help noticing, by the way, they were sent in the middle of the night. Here's what she said. I'm doing lots of driving up and down to London at the moment, so love listening to your podcasts en route. You're such an inspiring, amazing woman. Off to sleep now, as I'm looking after a 3-week-old. Well, first of all, I'm blushing at your acknowledging words and thanking you for taking the time to tell me that this show is helping you along on your journeys. Lately, listeners, we've had an uptick of mail to us. I really get all excited whenever anyone writes. It's actually quite funny. My team think it's very funny. It's like, oh, I've got some email. There's a listener that's written to me. I know, I need to get a life, don't I? If you fancy doing this anyway, making me squeak a bit with emails, then you can always get hold of me at podcast@schoolformothers.com. That's podcast@schoolformothers.com. Enough about me and my squeaking and the show. Let's dive right into this week's episode called Bottle. I'm really, really excited for today's podcast episode. We're spinning our way to Denmark, and I think that's really thrilling. I've never been to Denmark. I know it's absolutely gorgeous. I have several friends there, and I think it's really remiss that I haven't been. So I'm hoping that today's guest may offer me a little invite at some time, because I've been spending my time reading her book, which is Business Mum, and we're going to have a conversation about bottle. So welcome, Christine.
Thank you very much.
Yeah. I would really love to know what it took you to, really, I think what I'd like to know is, where'd you get your bottle from?
Oh, that's a good question. I think maybe if it's something that I feel that I really, really want to do in life, something that triggers me where I really want to do this, and I'm just so motivated that it kind of drives me and helps me to handle whatever obstacles that I come across.
Uh-huh. Yeah,
it's very much a motivational and I think passion thing.
Yeah. I really ought to have mentioned for non-UK listeners, and we have got loads actually, that bottle in the UK, its meaning is the courage or confidence to do something that feels difficult or even dangerous. So that's why I wanted to talk with you today, Christine, about this, because your book really helps mothers, doesn't it, to actually run a business and be a mum. And that can feel really difficult at times. Really, really difficult.
Yeah, I think it is difficult, but also you get a lot of freedom and flexibility when you run your own business, which can actually make it a lot easier to be a mom and to have this precious time with your children and then work at other times.
Mm-hmm.
But obviously, yeah, it is difficult because it's a full-time job being a mom and being there for your kids, and it's a full-time job running your own business.
Yeah, it is. I mean, how do you do it? How do you actually do it?
Well, actually, I've kind of changed my business plan several times depending on my family structure. So that the last time when I started out and I had my twins were 6 months old, I did a lot of online marketing, newsletters, webinars, and I did a lot of coaching, but on the phone so that I could work from home and I didn't have to look my best because I guess, when you have small children, you don't necessarily sleep that much. You're tired. And so it was good that I could kind of hide at home, but still work and do things in my own pace. And then when the twins got bigger and I started getting my sleep back, then I'm like, okay, I want to go back out. I want to see more people. And so I changed it to do more consulting and going out, doing public speaking, networking. But I think the idea is to be realistic about where you are with your personal life and then try and adapt to that as well.
So you changed your business plan according to your family's needs and what they were up to, and I guess in terms of their development, what you needed. I love the idea, by the way, of you being at home on the telephone. Did you wear pajamas?
Yes, I did. And I didn't wear any makeup. And it was really nice to be able to do it that way when I needed it, because then it's less stressful than when you have to go out and you don't feel comfortable maybe in your own skin because you're just not really up and running yet.
Yeah. On that note, I had this hilarious time when the triplets were relatively young. Well, I felt they were really quite young. And I was invited to do this kind of webinar. And I remember saying, you don't need it on video, do you? And she was like, yeah, it's quite businessy. I was like, oh, no, really? She's like, yeah, no, it's a really great opportunity. And so I was in some awful outfit, some dreadful around the house kit. And so all I did was I went and I got one of my kind of worky jackets, which I have very few these days, but I had a business suit jacket. I did not change the bottom of my pajama-y things. I literally just basically did my hair at the front, and I couldn't be bothered to get into anything posh. I really couldn't. So not fully. So I just kept my pajamas on the bottom and I put a business suit on the top. I only curled the front of my hair. I didn't even do the back. No, seriously. Yeah. I put some lipstick on and I looked like I was in a business suit, but I wasn't. I really wasn't. It was so funny. And this is out there somewhere. Like I was all dressed up. No. No. But
sometimes you just need to do whatever you have to do to get the things done and then not worrying about it being perfect.
Exactly. I think it's a really, really good point because, what listeners won't realize is that while Christine and I are having this conversation, this podcast software has been dropping in and out, and it's never happened to me before, ever. And so we're literally living with imperfection. So I'm just deeply grateful to our podcast editor, Marie, who works tirelessly to put things together. Yeah. This one will have been a chopped up, edited, seriously messy podcast episode. So.
Yeah, but the thing is that what I've learned about perfections and doing things is that the most important thing is that you keep doing things that make you move forward rather than having to do things that are perfect, because it's very rare that it's just one event or one action that would get you success. It's the fact that you keep doing things that you accumulate and then you'll become successful. So even though you say, okay, I did this podcast, it wasn't perfect, but the fact that you keep doing podcasts, that's what would get you where you want to go. So it's always important not to focus too much on perfection and rather just on doing the things that you want to do and then being okay with it. That, it's good, but not the best maybe.
Yeah. Do you think that men have a different perspective on perfection?
I think a lot of them, I guess it depends on who you are. You can't always generalize, but still in general, I guess the men are just more doing things and not worrying so much, if you should compare.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I was just curious what you thought, because, it's a wild generalization. You're absolutely right.
It is, but I mean, I could take it in another context in general. And I'm just saying this is a generalization. It's like you see women, we do a lot to look nice and put up, I don't know, you do your hair, you do your makeup, you do everything, where men, they just go out the way they are. And then sometimes they just maybe shave or cut their hair, but they don't do as much, and they're okay with that. So it's like, it seems like we have a different level of what we think is okay and how to raise the bar.
I think our currency, females are taught that our currency is looks. You know, our power lies in our looks, and therefore we have to tart ourselves up. I mean, I use that loosely, as tart is not the word really, but just, you know, we have to rearrange what we have to be at our best, to be of value. Yeah. Whereas men, that's not their currency, is it?
No. It seems like they're more relaxed. I mean, obviously you do have men that care about their looks and go to the fitness center and do sports, but just in general, I think they're more relaxed and okay with just being who they are.
I mean, from my perspective, it would be really nice if men did take a little more care of themselves.
Yeah.
You know,
that's true.
Because quite a few men look a bit unkempt, or they just, you know, it's looking at men. I can tell the men that are married and men that aren't, because generally, again, wild generalization, men that are married have somebody to actually try to get them a little bit in order.
Yeah.
Whereas single men, you know, I'm dating, so single men, oh, dearie me, they do need some help. Anyway, so I had no idea we'd be talking about men.
No.
we're
attracted bit.
It's okay. This is what women do. Women go all over the place.
Yeah. Could I ask a question that might be a bit off? But you just told me earlier you have 10 kids. How do men react to that when you date and you say you have 10 kids?
Oh, that's a really good question. Well, the truth of the matter is I don't mention it initially.
Okay. No.
I mean, why?
Because I was just saying, like, wow, that's a lot.
Well, you know, there's this whole thing I think I've learned over the years, that I don't invest in a conversation with really intimate details if I don't think that it's going anywhere. Yeah. So I had to kind of sit and think, well, how do I do this? Because I've had people kind of go for a cup of coffee or a drink and metaphorically slap all their baggage or all their experience on the table and say, right, this is me. And I'm like, whoa, okay. Yeah. Like, wow.
Too much information too soon.
Yeah, it's like, oh, I didn't need to know about your hemorrhoids. No, I did not. You know, okay, metaphorical. But the fact is, I know pretty quick. And so why would I even bother? And some people would say, well, that's lying. Well, no, I don't lie. I'll say, you know, I'm not comfortable talking about my children right now. I'll always say I have children. And occasionally somebody will say, well, how many? And I say, oh, a little tribe. You know? And mostly people think I'm joking, but I'm not.
No.
No. And then, of course, I have to decide, listen, I don't have 10 children. I mean, I do. I've birthed 11 children, but I don't have little children. I mean,
they're not at home, all of them.
They're not all little children. And I think this image of 10 children is like this created image of all these little clawing little toddlers at my calves or hanging off my breasts. No. I have 3 under 15.
Yeah.
And then the other 2, I mean, one's going to university this year. I don't have a calendar where I'm literally crossing off the days. I'm not that bad, but I'm aware that in a few years I will have just the 3 at home.
Yeah.
You know, and that's lovely. So there is a sentence that I really despise, and I'm really glad you didn't say it, Christine.
Okay.
I would have weathered it, it's fine. But it's the one where people say, how do you get a man to take all of you on? I'm like, really? I don't.
No, you don't need to.
No, exactly. It's never that. A man would be of the caliber that I would be interested in and be in a relationship with would never dream to say that. It wouldn't be the sentiment. And I think people would be surprised. Men do not find children a problem.
No.
That's not my experience anyway. But I do hear it from others.
Well, I think you have a good point there with like, what kind of man would you be interested in? Because I think it's the same when you run a business. You don't want to have like customers or go after customers who can't accept you the way you are or what you're doing. So you should always look as to whether it's in your private life or business life to be around people who are okay with who you are and what you stand for.
Oh, I really love what you're saying, because there is a part in your book where you talk about quirks. Oh, can you say some more about that? Because it's brilliant.
Yeah, well, it's just like basically, and I think especially when you want to do business, you want to be like businessy and professional and I guess perfect. And so we kind of try to hide all of our quirks and just be like people expect you to be. But the thing is that when you do business, I mean, people buy from people and we're all human beings. So actually it's really nice to meet somebody who's not perfect and somebody who we can relate to and somebody who dares to just be themselves. It's actually really inspiring. And so in general, you actually become more successful if you dare just to be yourself and be around people that like the way that you're doing business and going about life.
Yeah, exactly. Because we sniff authenticity out, don't we?
Yeah. And that's a shame. Because it's also the way we can actually distinguish ourselves from our competitors, because nobody will be exactly like you. They might do something similar or have, to some extent, a similar background. But if you're really you can't compare and you'll stand out. And that's a good thing.
Yeah, exactly. These quirks are our strengths. They really are.
Yeah.
What's your quirks?
Well, I guess it depends on how you look at it. But I think when I took the example in the book, it was just because when I was doing business in the beginning, it was mainly with men and older men. And I was just trying to be one of the guys and not showing that I had small kids and being a mom. And then I realized at some point, I think when I was expecting my twins, that I was just fed up with trying to hide that I had little kids and that I'm a woman. And I'm like, no, I want to go out there. I want to say that I have 4 kids and that my family is important to me, but I can still do business. And so I changed it. And actually the response has been really positive. But it was just for a while, I thought that I couldn't be a mom in a business world because that would be like, you're not serious or you're maybe too soft or I don't know. But it's been a positive experience, actually.
Wherever did you get your ideas that you couldn't be a mom and be in business? I'm really curious about that.
I think it was like when I started doing business, actually, you said I live in Denmark, but I started out in France, in Paris. I'm married to a French guy. That's also why I got the weird last name. Yeah. And there it was just like, they were just like all male, and family in Paris is not a priority. It's work, work, work. Work is who you are. And the longer you stay, the more hours you do, the more serious you are. And that's just the way they looked at it. So I just didn't feel like it was appropriate to talk about kids and family and being a young mom.
Mm-hmm. I think, listeners will know that we've covered this quite a lot.
Yeah.
In terms of, it's a running theme, the need to hide one's motherhood in business. And it's something that School for Mothers is, passionate about and working with corporates on to flip the script around mothers as problems and actually have them, understand, for corporates to understand that mothers are a business advantage. They're an asset. We totally believe that. And we're doing some really lovely work at the moment around bringing the commercial benefits of mothers to their minds. So it is a real change of belief about mothers and what we can do.
And I think it's a good thing that you're doing that, because I think what we need is just basically more role models out there, because when you hear the stories, then you'll figure out, okay, it's okay, I can do that. But if you only hear about successful men working 90 hours a week, you'll say, okay, I can never fit into that. And that's not who I want to be. So I think it's important to get all the stories out there of women succeeding and how they do and how they built their business or career and still be able to be a good mom and spend time with their children.
Yeah, exactly. Because it's the different versions. There are so many ways to actually do this, aren't there? That it isn't a case of getting up, getting dressed, getting into the office,
No.
and working yourself to death and then going home. There's so many iterations. And I really love the way that you said you have changed your business according to the needs of your children. And that's so true, isn't it? That we can, especially if you're running your own business, you can do that because family needs aren't static.
Yeah, they change all the time. And so you can say, this is just a phase, and then you can change and you can scale up or scale down or get more help, but you can work around it. And that's actually what I loved when I wrote the book, is that I interviewed a lot of other moms just to see how did they do it? How did they build their business, and having like different backgrounds from mine, because I don't want just to have a story like be like me and then you can succeed, because I know that most people aren't like me and I don't want them to be. So I interviewed all of these like really inspiring business moms, and just hearing how they started out. Some of them were divorced, some with young children, some pregnant, some had 5 kids when they started, and different kinds of business and different ways of doing it, but they all figure it out one way or another. And it's just a lot about using what you've got instead of thinking that you have to fit into a certain form and there's a certain way you have to do it. Then do it the other way around. Look what you've got. Look what the strengths you've got, the resources you have, and then take it from there.
Yeah. Yeah. It's doing it your own way. Having the bottle, having the courage to actually be self-determined and to not conform to that standard stereotype of this is the way it's done. I love it.
Yeah.
And it's one of the reasons why I enjoy less and less these days speakers up on stages, women speakers who really do say this is the way to do it. I just think it's bull. There is no one way. So I really would love to hear less women doing that.
Yeah.
Feels like a very masculine model.
It does, but I think sometimes also it's what sells. It's like, say, I got this method, and if you just copy paste it, you'll have success. And that's kind of an easy thing to sell and go out and say. And I think that's why a lot of people are doing it, except that it doesn't work in real life because we're all different. So you can't just copy paste whatever somebody else has been doing. You need to do it in your own way with who you are and the skills you've got. And yeah.
Exactly. That's actually why School for Mothers is about the woman rather than the method. It's about building the depth of who you are as a woman, not the parenting skills. It's actually, what do you bring to the table? Who are you? How do you build your bottle? How do you build your courage? How do you decrease guilt? Because, there's so much pressure to have guilt. In all those areas, we're really interested in the woman. So, yeah. Very interesting. So tell me about these 10 women that you interviewed. What was the biggest surprise?
The biggest surprise, actually, when listening to them and talking to them and hearing about how they've all become very successful, is that I thought, okay, you have to do this or follow these rules, or that they would refer to a certain method or something. And what all of them ended up saying in one way or another is you should listen to your heart and follow your gut feeling and your intuition. I was just really surprised at that, because you don't, if you go to business school and you read business books, you'll not hear follow your intuition. That's not what you're being taught. But every time I talk to successful people, that's actually what they do, because they figure out, no, this is my project, it's my business, it's my dream. So even though I can get expert advice on like how to build my website or how to do like different practical stuff, it's still your business, and that part needs to come from you. You need to have your own vision and then go for that. And so listening to your own intuition and following your heart was actually a really big advice from most of the women, and that surprised me.
And yeah, women are absolute Olympians at intuition. This is something we tend to have built in to our being.
Yeah. And often I think what can be difficult, you're even called School for Mothers, is that when you go to school, we learn to be a certain way, and if we follow certain rules, we'll get good grades. And so actually all the time that we're in school, we don't really learn to listen to ourselves. We just learn to be in a special way to get good grades and to get people's approval of what we're doing. Whereas if you want to go out and succeed with your own business, you have to kind of shut that out and listen to yourself and be comfortable with the fact that some people might think that what you're doing is stupid and they want to do it otherwise, and just like go ahead and say, no, I want to do this. I really believe in it.
Yeah, it's a fantastic point that you're making about approval and building within yourself the ability to, well, I think, accept that you might stand out. You can't conform all the time. Nobody that conformed has ever really created anything innovative, that's for sure, because you have to hold on to that vision, don't you, of how things could be different.
Yeah, and I think also, I mean, it's good for as being a role model for your own children, just to show them that it's okay to be yourself, even though we have to fit into a society and there are different laws that we should respect, but still to teach our children it's okay to be yourself, and you don't have to look perfect like whoever's on YouTube or all the things that you have on social media today. But just to show, now go out and be yourself and you can succeed, and it's fun. It's so much more fun than if you're trying to be somebody else.
Yes. Yeah, exactly. Well, in the episode called Mask, we cover a lot of this. I'm in conversation with Emma Stroud, and we talk about all the masks that we have to put on. We feel as children that we need to put on. We learn those. And then as adults, we basically spend our time trying to unmask, to peel back to being the core self, because that is, after all, so much easier when we're ourselves than when we're trying to use energy to be something we're not. Yeah, in fact, it was Emma the other day said to me, listen, Danusia, you're a really playful woman. Bring more play to the podcast, would you?
Yeah.
And I was like, she's got a really good point. Really, really good point. Part of my quirk is a daft sense of humor and, and daring to be naughty, just actually be naughty. And sometimes we need those reminders of who we are and how we've slightly course corrected or conformed.
Yeah.
So
also humor is a good thing. And I mean, most people actually, they like to have fun. They want to have fun. They don't want to be stuck in this serious world with all the things you have to do. It's not very inspiring. So I think that most people are actually drawn to people that dare to let a bit loose and be themselves and maybe be a bit more carefree.
Yeah, it's true. It's that the childlike energy of, getting that joy and that, carefree.
Yeah, have fun.
Have fun, really.
Sometimes taboo, often seemingly ordinary, always honest.
I'm interrupting this episode to make a quick ask. It's kind of a significant one as well, and I hope you don't mind. So it's my birthday on Friday the 15th of February. I don't want presents this year. I really don't. But what would make me so happy is podcast reviews. Would you indulge me on my special day or even in my birthday week by leaving a review? That would be just the ticket. If you're not sure how to post a review, I've added some instructions in the show notes. It's super quick and honestly, it would mean the world to me. Not just because I love knowing how you're enjoying the podcast, but also because it helps other women around the world find it too. Thank you so much. I mean, really, thank you.
Schoolformothers.com.
I wonder what it would be like to focus on fun. Just to like make that your daily focus.
Yeah.
I don't wake up and think, now, what fun shall I have today?
I actually tried to work on it last year, intentionally. I wanted to feel, not fun, but I wanted to feel excited, because I know that when I feel excited about things, I can just get everything done in half the time. And I just have these loads of energy. And I had the most amazing year last year. And I did so many things that I never expected doing. And it was just, so I think that having the intention, really, I want to feel this, I want to do it, and then it will come.
Yeah, exactly, because that's what some people do, isn't it, for their new year. So they ascribe a word to their year and they focus on that. And that brings them, it brings them what it does. But I'm curious now, so what did you get up to last year?
So last year, well, I just had my book published in Denmark, and I wanted to have it out to a bigger audience. And then I started looking at the UK, and it's just like, you need an agent and you need to wait for 6 to 9 months. And I'm like, wow, it will take forever. It's never going to happen. And then I just started making some phone calls to people I know and asking questions. And then within, I think, a week, I had found an editor in the UK. And as you could see, it came out in November last year. So that was like a really big accomplishment for me. And it will be out in the US next month. I also landed a new consulting job, which had me travel to Long Island and Paris and London. It was just like so much fun, and just going out and doing things. And yeah, and it just kind of came out of nowhere. What I did is when I saw the opportunity, I acted on it like, this could be fun, so I'll just go for it and we'll see wherever it takes me. And that was just brilliant.
And it's taking you lots of places. So I absolutely hear lots of bottle in there. So it's fun, but you had the courage to actually say yes to these things.
Yeah, and just hope that it will work out for the best. And if not, I think that a philosophy of mine is, I think in general, I tend to regret what I don't do. I don't regret what I do, because then at least I tried. I mean, it's not always for me to control how things will end out and what the outcome will be, but at least I have tried it. And then, yeah, if it didn't work out, well, at least I'm not regretting not doing anything about it and wondering what if, then what could have been, you know?
Yeah, yeah. I believe what you're saying to be true, that there are very few things that I regret doing, you know, very, very few. So that whole idea of getting up and trying things and course correcting, pivoting, whatever we call it, you know, completely resurrecting sometimes. These adventures always take us somewhere that then leads us to go to some next stage of our life or our part of our journey or our growth. They really do. So I know that you've had several stages in your career, haven't you?
Yes, you can say that.
Go on then, tell us.
Yeah, no, but I started out having actually a recruitment agency in Paris when I was out of school. I did a master's degree in communication, and then again, it was an opportunity that presented itself to me. And so I started a recruitment agency with a guy that I met in France, and did that for a few years, and just had actually a lot of fun doing it. But then when I started having children, I felt that I was working too much, and work life in Paris, at least, there's not so much balance in that. And so we decided to move to Denmark with my husband and the children. And we came to Denmark in 2008 at the same time as the crisis. And so it's like, okay, I'm not going to start a new business now. So I had a few years where I worked as a consultant. And then, I mean, all the time I had this desire to become my own boss again. And then when I found out that I was pregnant with the twins, I decided that it was a good time, because then I could get my flexibility and freedom back. Obviously, it was also risky because I quit my good job and fixed income and having 2 more kids. So it was obviously a risk. But what we did was we cut down on our expenses. So we sold the car and got an electrical bike where we could have the 4 kids in. And we decided to stay in the apartment instead of moving into a house, because, you know, when you have more children, everybody's saying, now you need a bigger house, you need a bigger car. And we just, no, we do the opposite, because then there's less pressure on earning a lot of money, and we'll have time for me to build my business and to be with the kids and to be tired when they're not sleeping or when they're ill or whatever. So there's just like this whole phase of scaling down. But it was just a really good time because we didn't have that pressure.
Yes.
And then when the kids got older, then saying, okay, now I'm ready for something else. And I stopped doing so much of the coaching on the phone and webinars, and started going out to public speaking and helping businesses and seeing them instead of working from home, and started to travel. And so there's just, as you say, been different stages depending on where I've been in my personal life.
Yeah. There's a lot of magic in what you've just said. There's so many little nuggets of gold in there. So one of them is that I could hear immediately was do the opposite. I mean, do the opposite. It's not even don't conform. It's simply listen to what people would say, do the opposite to that. Oh, I love it. Oh, music to my ears. Wonderful.
Yeah, but you should just do what makes sense to you and not to everyone else.
Yeah. So I was talking with a friend the other day who has this big house. They have one child and they're not having any more children. And she was saying everybody was like, beautiful home. It's absolutely fantastic, lovely big garden. And she said, we've just sold it. And the reason that she sold it is because of what you've just talked about, the other piece, which is, why would we need all of that space? Like, why? Why do we need several reception rooms? Why do we need a huge kitchen? Why do we need, and then we have to find all that money to keep it? No, scale down. And so they're in, exactly as you described it, in that phase of what can we scale down? We don't need this. And it is really genius to do that, to create space for what else you can, build. Do we have to have that life with all of that space and all that upkeep? Yeah. Or the upkeep of places. Yeah.
And I think the thing is today, at least in our society, what people need is more time and being with the people you love and doing what you like. It's not having more stuff or having a bigger place to live in. I think we've crossed the point of, like, most of us got a pretty nice home. You can always get something bigger. You can always get a bigger car, but it's not going to make you happy when you've gotten that, like, basic comfort down. Then other things are important.
Yeah, I think meaning in life has shifted considerably. We're far more spiritually, many of us, far more spiritually leaning. And I don't know if everyone's got a great house. In the UK, our housing market has changed. The people that once owned homes no longer own homes. The ability to own homes is very different. But obviously that's just for the UK. I don't own a home. I don't own one.
No, but I don't think you need to own one. But you have a roof over your house. You have the basic comfort. Yes, and that's what I mean. Then it doesn't have to be big or whatever, or you don't have to own it. But just that you have, like, your basic needs are met. Then if you want to feel fulfilled or have fun in life, then you need other things than just getting more stuff. It's like more about what you do and who you spend time with.
Yeah, what you do, who you are, and what you bring to the world, I think, is so important. Yeah, we are having one of the funniest episodes in terms of noises, interruptions, phones. We are walking, talking imperfection. It's super fun. I couldn't have put it together better to actually model it. So, yes. How important do you think your husband is in terms of encouraging you to have bottle and to go for what you want in life?
I think my husband is important in the way that he believes in me. And so whatever I want to do, he supports me in it. So he always, I think I would still do what I do anyway. Wouldn't let him decide. But obviously it's easier when you have a partner who's just saying, yeah, go for it and you should do it. And that sounds fun and we'll figure it out. And he's just like, well, if it doesn't work out, we can always live in a tent in my parents' backyard. And, he's just, very easygoing and not like, okay, but you could lose all our money and that's a bad thing. He's just, we'll figure it out. We'll figure it out.
Oh.
So it's nice to have that kind of a moral support. And I think that you need that. And if not from your husband, then maybe from a close friend or whatever, just to have somebody that cheers on you. That's because you do go through periods, obviously, where you have a lot of doubt. Things don't work out the way you expected. So it's always nice to have somebody that you can talk to and rely on for moral support.
Yeah, I think it's really, really lovely that you have, a husband like that. Because I hear quite a few women who don't, and they, and the best bit was you saying you do it anyway. I mean, it's like, yeah.
I mean, I would, but obviously it's easier that I don't have to fight with him over it. And I know that if you don't have anyone in your like close relatives or friends, what I can really recommend is all these communities that we have, and you can often find them online. And then some of them also meet up, where you live. So you go to meet other women that are kind of in your situation and have the same beliefs about following your dream and doing what you want, so that you find like-minded people that can support you if you don't already have them around you. But you need to go out and find that.
We all need our inner circle, don't we? We all need people that remind us who we are and believe in us and cheer us on and care about us, and what happens, what we do in the world. Oh, for sure. Definitely. I'm wondering in what area you have really had to intentionally grow your bottle.
Oh, public speaking. That's a big one. I really wanted to do it. But there's just a big difference as from when work-wise I've been speaking in front of people about some professional matter, and then going out and sharing my experience and my own advice because it's so personal. So that was just like a big deal to go out and do that, because if you get like negative feedback, you're so much more vulnerable. And so I actually just started out with small groups and then slowly grew it until I was able to speak in front of a lot of people, so that I could, get used to it.
Yeah. Did you take any kind of coaching or anything like that?
I had somebody who I helped with their business strategy and who didn't have any money. And so they gave me coaching as payment. And so they came to hear me speak, and somebody coached me on just the way I did it. Somebody did it on the voice. Somebody gave me actually some techniques onto how I could, stand with my feet to feel grounded and just calm my nerves.
Yeah. There are some great techniques.
So I got some advice from different people. And then it's like most things, you need to go and do it. And in the beginning it's awkward, and then it gets better. And just know that it's a process like anything else, like learning to walk or talk. In the beginning you fall, but if you keep going, you will end up, knowing how to do it.
Yeah, you're pretty gutsy though, and very determined. That's what I hear. Yeah. And I guess if you want what you want and you want to follow your dreams, you've got to be, haven't you? You can't, we all get knockbacks.
You need to go for it.
And we're in some area where all of us human beings have our vulnerabilities, and you either kind of look the other way or you go sort them, which clearly with public speaking you have. And what kind of speaking events have you got coming up?
Well, actually, right now I don't have that many, because I've just focused on starting a new business with a friend of mine. So this is a whole new project for the new year that I'm focused on. But I'm hoping to come back to the UK actually in March and do some things around the 8th of March, which is the International Women's Day, and come do different things. But I think it will be in London probably.
Oh, great. Maybe we can meet up.
So that's, So I'm looking into that. And then, as I said, I'm starting the other business, so it's taken most of my focus and energy at this moment.
What is the business?
Well, actually, it's I'm partnering up with somebody who's like really a specialist, and it's within cybersecurity, big data, artificial intelligence, and so advise companies on that.
That's a departure.
It's very different, but what I wanted to do is to do something where I get away from being the product, because otherwise I've been both doing the selling and being the product myself, giving advice and doing things. And I wanted to get away from that and just grow something where I can go out, I can meet the customers, I can grow the business and have that part, but I'm not also having to deliver the solution.
Interesting. And interesting. What is...
So that's a new phase.
Yeah.
Talking about phases.
Yeah, no, I hear it. Absolutely. So what is it about? Tell me why you want to get away from being the product.
Well, being the product, it has a natural limit as to how much time you have and how much of your own time you can sell.
Yes.
So obviously you can raise your prices, but at some point you can't move forward, because it depends on the hours you have free during the day. Whereas if you have something else or someone else being the product, then you can scale it.
Yeah. Yes, it's all about scalability, isn't it? It really is. Yeah.
And so I think I'm in a place also in my life with now the twins just turned 5, and I feel that I'm ready for something bigger and to take on more. Whereas when they were smaller, it felt better just being on my own and not having to take care of employees or business partners and that kind of stuff.
Yeah, so that's about bandwidth, isn't it, of what capacity we have.
Yeah.
And linked to that, the family needs. And so your business plans change or contract or expand.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's really brilliant. Yeah. Have you got any questions?
No, not, not at this moment.
I have never asked a guest if they've got any questions, by the way.
No, but I think I have my questions with you and the 10 kids. It's just like, I think it's so amazing that you've got such a big family. That's like really nice.
Thank you.
Because actually the funny thing is when I had my twins, then people would go like, well, then you're definitely not having any more kids. And I'm like, why? I'm not decided on that yet. We'll see. I might not have any more right now, but I'm not like, it's not a clear no. I might want to have some more at some point, But they were just like, and even from the hospital, because they wanted to do a C-section, and they're like, yeah, but we could just sterilize you right away, then it's for free. And I'm like, nah, no way. And anyway, I just want to like give birth to my children. You're not giving me a C-section unless it's necessary. And so they didn't do it. But I was just like really surprised at how people want to, stop you or limit you.
Yeah, it is limits, really, isn't it? It's other people's opinions about what is right.
Yeah, and it's that with motherhood and business. So I just really think it's so nice that you haven't seen those limits and you've got this big family, and it's just amazing to me.
Oh, thank you. And I do think that it's to do with what we've been really the common thread through this. It's having the courage to define what is right for you, as opposed to, you've got to know what society says is right. They say, but if it's not right for you, then you don't have to follow it. You can do it your way and make it work for you. And that's the important thing. You can figure it out. There'll be challenges. And one of the podcast guests that I'm hoping to feature is basically, her name is Sue Radford, and she's mother of the largest family in Britain, and she has 21 children. And
wow.
Yeah. Over the Christmas period, I was watching a documentary about their life, her and her husband, Noel, and she'd just given birth to the 21st, and having said on her 20th that she would not have any more. And I was sat there and I was intrigued to find myself going, wow, that is a lot of children. And I was like, hey, hang on, Danusia, just a minute.
But
literally.
Wow.
But it took me to just a split second to go, no, hold on. You're sitting in the seat of those who look at you and go, that's a lot of children.
But it still is a lot. I mean, it's unusual, but just because it's unusual, it doesn't mean that it's wrong. I think that's where you need to distinguish.
That's exactly it. Because the fact is, it is, of course, a lot of children. And the fact is, my children, there's a lot of children. Yeah, but it doesn't make it wrong. And I'm really glad that you made that point, because that's it. And I don't think my acknowledgement of the fact that that's a lot of children was actually judgmental. I just was intrigued that finally I was saying, wow, goodness me. Because I don't say that very often, because it's up to women what they choose for themselves in all sorts of ways.
Yeah.
I'm definitely, being a mother is not the be all and end all of everything. And I've said this a couple of times, and I don't believe that females have to have, women have to have children. Of course they don't. In fact, I tell my daughters probably not to bother sometimes, because it's a challenge. It is a challenge being a mother. I'll own it for myself.
I don't think any child would want to feel like unwanted. So obviously, if you should have children if that's what you feel like.
And the truth of the matter is, though, Christine, that we never really know what we're going to give birth to.
That's true.
well, we can't know, and until we're in it, we don't know really, truthfully, if we can cope with it.
No, and we don't know who we are as parents, at least not in the beginning. I mean, we also learn going along. So
we do. And so I have the benefit of having had, 4 boys in that order. And so I knew boys, those 4 anyway. And I have a strong sense of how males change in adolescence, for instance. And then I had 4 girls, and sadly one died, but in that order, so 4 boys, 4 girls, and then triplets that are mixed. So my first daughter was my 5th child, but I had to relearn it. Like I did not know the stages of girlhood.
Yeah.
And for her, it was different than the next one. So, but because I've had so many, I can see the patterns.
Yeah, but if you only... It's so different when you have the triplets then, because then you have 3 at the same time. So you have to handle it differently, even though you have a
totally
sense
different
of what's coming.
Absolutely. So even though people said, oh, you're a veteran at this, you're like, so easy. No, completely the opposite. I had no idea. So, because I had singletons before, I hadn't had any multiples, and it's a totally different world, as you know.
Yeah.
And the relationship between them, the dynamic between multiples is different to the dynamic between differently aged singletons, thoroughly different. And so there's a whole series of challenges and, of course, joys, but loads of challenges that I had not encountered and I had to stretch into that I couldn't have anticipated at all. So yeah, it's a leap of faith. Becoming a mother is an extraordinary leap of faith that women, pretty well tend to step up to magnificently, day in, day out. We're remarkable.
Yeah. Yeah, but I think it's often like that in life, whether it's having children or starting your own business, you don't know what's coming. You just at least need to have faith in yourself and your own capability of handling whatever will appear.
Well, that's the crux of it, isn't it? That no matter what, that you can handle it.
Yeah.
That you've got the strength to walk on and keep going and to create from whatever happens. And that's with children, that's with business.
Yeah.
That's at the heart of it. But it has to be all about you and your ability to be resilient, I think, and to trust yourself. It's essentially a matter of trust.
It is.
That you trust that you will be able to manage. And I absolutely loved your book. I really did. It's a fabulous book, listeners. It's called Business Mum, 3 Steps to Success in Running Your Own Business and Being a Mum. We'll put the link in the show notes. Yeah. We will have the every which way to get hold of you, Christine.
Yeah.
We'll be shouting out about the podcast and also this episode for you, but also really because it's a wonderful book. I love your generous spirit and it's deeply honest and it's also not all about you. As you said, it's all, includes the lives of these other 10 wonderful mothers and their ways of doing things. It's really a great book. And I've read quite a lot of books like this, obviously, because I'm deeply interested in it. And this one's fabulous. So I'm really grateful for this conversation. You sure have, a shed load of bottle, that's for sure. I know listeners can hear it. And I found this very inspiring, this conversation. So thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Wow, what a fabulous episode. I know you'll understand exactly why we called this episode Bottle. Christine is one gutsy woman, isn't she? Recording with her was an absolute hoot. And for the first time, I mean seriously, a guest asked me a question. Ooh, I do like that kind of rule breaking. I loved recording this episode with Christine because the conversation was just so easy and it flowed from one juicy topic to another. Aren't those kind of conversations the best? Coming up next week, I'm joined by Heledd Kendrick in an episode called Force. Heledd is the founder and CEO of Recruit for Spouses, which is a fantastic organisation helping military spouses find jobs across the UK, or to start businesses that work for them. As a former military wife, I know firsthand the impact of being posted around the country or even the world. So I'm sure I'll share more on that in next week's episode. I'm really looking forward to it. Heledd is something of a big character. So thanks for joining us again. See you next week. Here's to you.
Thank you for tuning in to the School for Mothers podcast. To continue the conversation and keep your dose of inspiration up, head over to schoolformothers.com/podcast, where you'll find bonus content from Danusia and her guests on habits, recommendations, books, best apps, time-saving secrets, life hacks, health, sleep and anything in between. That's schoolformothers.com/podcast.